Hi there, I'm Ewan, welcome to my channel. Today we're going to be building on last week's video, which was a video about how my claim of having 100 million thoughts and, what do we do about that, what does it mean? And this week we're going to be looking at the Spotify 2025 wrap, but it's my mind in the sense that I don't know if you're on Spotify, Spotify, it's a big thing for my teenage daughters at the end of the year to kind of say what songs they listen to most. Here is my Spotify wrap. I don't know if you can see that there. I've got Beautiful Hell, Wasting My Younger Years, Wait, and Pyro as my 4 top songs. So I don't know what that tells you about me or my life, but probably something. And yeah, Spotify kind of does a breakdown of what you listen to most, the genres, blah, 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 blah. And it kind of creates it in the sense of, this is what's kind of dominated your music listening taste throughout the year. And what I'd like to do is kind of look at that through the lens of, ones if we had a mind version. Now with Neuralink and maybe 30 years from now, they will stick something on our head that will tell us that. But for now, we just got to work it out ourselves. And what I mean by that is if my mind was Spotify and it's summarized what are the most kind of regular, repeated tracks or playlists I have throughout the day, throughout the year, what do I listen to most in my mind? What are the songs, inverted commas, that run through my mind day in, day out? And what do they mean? What do they tell me about my life? What do they tell me about the world? Now, I've done a little sort of a pretend version that you can see on one of the sides of the screens. I'm not sure which one's going to show up on. And it could be like an anxiety playlist, a shame playlist. A big one in Brisbane is people complaining about the weather, the cost of living crisis. There are things we talk about regularly. And then there's our interior narrative, our interior story. And what I like to look at today is what does that mean? And what kind of relationship do we have to these tracks that play over and over and over? And for many of us, we can feel like we're lumbered with a playlist that feels very negative. It's very undermining, it's very anxious, it's very fearful, and it just plays over and over and over and over. And we feel like we don't have a lot of control or agency regarding changing that. It's like these were the tracks that were kind of downloaded at a very early age, and now we just got repeating it over and over and over. And I know as someone that's 51, the capacity to be repetitive and the capacity just to repeat things just feels like as you get older, it gets more ingrained rather than less. I have a thing with my daughters where if I say, if I'm repeating something, if you've heard this anecdote before, just tell me and I'll shut up. And they'll often say, yeah, we've heard this, we know this. But from an interior perspective, ones that aren't necessarily shared, like boring stories, what is the boring story I'm telling myself? And in our relationship with that story, do we have the capacity to change? And if so, how do we do that? Because I think for many of us, when we kind of become aware of this kind of negative self-talk, for this playlist of shame or this playlist of self-criticism, a first kind of way of dealing with it is to say, I want to replace that with something positive. I want less, I hate myself, and more like, I'm walking on sunshine kind of thing. And we have affirmations, we do certain things, we try to change our way of thinking to change our life, very kind of cognitive behavioral therapy kind of thing. But it either doesn't last, or these stories or these songs feel so embedded that we just end up struggling, and it's it feels like it's very difficult to kind of rewire that, because these aren't just lyrics like I hate myself or I'm lazy. They come with emotions and feelings. You might say that's the music that accompanies the lyrics, and these are very powerful songs that are played over and over. And also I think what's worth noting is that although these feel very negative, and they definitely can be, they're also very familiar. And to some degree, for many of us, we're very attached to these songs, and we're very invested in strange kind of ways, as negative as they may be, because they tell us a story about who we are and the injustices we've encountered and the triumphs we've had, and the kind of, there's a victimology to these stories as well that kind of paints us in a certain way. and to move beyond these stories and these songs. There's a level of attachment and a level of identification with these stories that I think makes it hard just to kind of delete them or just change the playlist. So what I'd like to share with you is what's been working for me in that regard, so how I've been able to kind of better understand these songs and develop a different relationship with them. And to begin with, it's not really like trying to change the tracks. So for me, these playlists and these songs that keep repeating themselves, my first objective, you might say, the first thing I'm trying to do is, first of all, be aware. Okay, this is a story. Because I think the thing that we get caught in a little bit is there's a level of, we're not only telling these songs, we're really believing them. We're really feeling like our thoughts and the things we think are true, rather than just passing phenomena that comes and goes, that's built on circumstance and history and memory, that there's an insubstantialness to the way we think that feels like when we're in it feels very substantial. These thoughts really tell me about reality, the reality of myself, the reality of the world. So I think to begin with, I think it's helpful to see, first of all, what's going on, like what are these stories? And you can even write out your own playlist. What are the things I just keep repeating over and over, and start to create an awareness of this phenomena, like, here are my tracks. This is what it looks like. And instead of necessarily replacing or deleting, we're starting to feel like we understand this and understand the nature of this, rather than we're trying to kind of get rid of it. Because the process of getting rid of these songs, of deleting them or replacing them, just becomes another song. It just becomes another story that we're caught in identifying. So rather than, as I have my playlist here, rather than being immersed in this, I'm trying to kind of separate a little bit, that there's me here, like I'm here, and there's this playlist of songs, which I could say the phone represents my thinking process, and I'm starting to kind of look a little bit. I'm starting to observe to the best of my ability without judgment or shame or critique, but I'm hearing them, maybe for the first time. And I'm not lost in the identification with these stories, with these songs. And that has a way of discharging some of this energy. It has a way of creating a little bit of space between the playlist, the song, and all the things that accompany it, and our being, or our sense of self, or that there is someone listening to these songs. And I think that's a really interesting question to ask yourself. I have this playlist of shame, self-hatred, anxiety, fear, pride, a whole mixture of things. But who's listening? Who's generating these stories? Building them, identifying with them, defending them. Who's the who? Who's the one doing it all? And, okay, that's interesting. There's someone listening. And who's listening? And I would invite you just to kind of to look at this from more of an exploration of this, rather than like, here's the answers and here's what you should do. It's like, there's an invitation to be curious about, where's this coming from? Not necessarily the content of the song, the lyrics, the music. We're just more like, where's it arising from? And as we better understand that, or get a feel of that, it creates a little bit of separation, a little bit of space between the song and the listener. So look, I hope this has helped. I hope this has made sense. If you'd like to share any of what's in your playlist, please go ahead in the comment section. If you've enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. I try to put out videos as much as I can. Please take care of yourself.